Welcome back to Game 4 of defending world champions SK Telecom T1 versus the Chinese LPL's Royal Never Give Up. You're seeing the SKT coach Koma right now. He's got 3 championships under his belt. This would be number 4 if he could win this and again next weekend. But for now, it's their backs against the wall. RNG up 2-1 in this series. Double match point to be the only team to ever take down SKT at Worlds.
I mean, yeah, they've been over the stats, right? They're 7-0 in elimination matchups, but they would have to win 2 right now, back to back. And in that last game, we saw RNG pulling off that victory with Uzi's Vayne. You know, he played Uzi, or I mean, Uzi played Vayne versus SK Telecom way back in 2013, 2 times.
Yep.
He lost both times, but he never gave up, and he found his victory here.
It's so interesting. Peanut coming in also, first time he's ever been subbed into a best of 5 is an intriguing one. His champion pool in summer, it doesn't really fit the Cinderhulk meta. Our idea of who Peanut is as a jungler doesn't fit into the more tanky side. He said in interviews he's happy to play the Sejuani. I think that's a very likely first pick for SKT. They're on the blue side. But will it just be RNG having their first visit to the Galio? And will Peanut be able to find the sort of space that he's going to look for if he's going to impact the series?
You can definitely see the stress from SK Telecom. This is not an expected move here. The story of Peanut has not been a happy one, you know, this summer. And for him to come back in now on an elimination game, this would be a huge setup for a redemption story for him. If he is able to come in and save this series for SK Telecom, that would be one of the most heartwarming stories for a jungler we've seen in a long time.
And that's the thing. Bengi last year grew that relationship as a closer, that reputation of being a closer from his play at Worlds largely. Blank has been that player this year. You don't think of Peanut in that same sort of way, but you wouldn't have thought of Blank last year. This is where he can write his part of the SKT history. Or this is where one of the most famous stories, SKT's long love affair and consistent success at Worlds may come to an end.
Absolutely. The players change, but the results have always stayed the same for SKT. Want to give everyone at home a quick update. We're replacing a cable on the stage for one of the computers for one of the players, so we do have a short couple-minute delay. Of course, we will get into Game 4 as soon as we can. We had seen earlier Uzi's stats in the Vayne had done so well, and you had mentioned, it's something I want to bring up, Peanut's typical champion pool does not suit the metagame, the styles we've seen for most teams in the summer split. But if there's anything we've learned over the last couple of weeks of the World Championship, the metagame doesn't always seem to matter. It's playing the style and the champions, the strategies you think make sense. There's several Vayne games coming out of Uzi now, the Leona victory out of Wolf in Game 2 over there. You can take your own style into the game, and as long as you know how to play that and pilot that gameplay, it can work for you.
Thus far, when we've seen Peanut, though, he's had to be a good boy and play the meta tanks.
Sure.
Jarvan, Sejuani, Gragas.
Only.
He toes the line here. Now, you talk about letting Uzi kind of unravel his wings and play Vayne, and RNG kind of embracing their natural style there. For SKT, if they were to sub in Peanut and let him play one of those types of champions, that would be the most ridiculous kind of show of respect and show of confidence of the team, maybe all time even.
And in spring season in MSI, they did straddle the line a bit. You could play Elise back then. The Olaf games were famous. He popped off on Lee Sin during MSI, hit all those kills in the early game. It was a different time. But you could play Elise in this meta. It's a specific thing. You could try to make it work. His Nidalee hasn't been seen outside of solo queue. Also a famous pick. But have they actually spent their scrim time splitting between the two and trying to play to his strengths? Or is he forced into that supportive box that Bengi, that Blank are largely known as?
And whatever champion he does end up with, how will this affect that 2v2 mid lane we've been so focused on and has been so important? Faker has been playing out of his mind on a Galio, but Faker, as we said, this is one of the players with the deepest champions pools at the entire tournament. Does SK Telecom need to make a different look here of composition?
They need to play Faker carries us style, right? Does he have to be the damage source? Because it's been Bang and Huni on the damage threats, 3 tanks in a row for Faker. Galio we know is very good. It's a strong champion. Almost every team would love to pick the champion and play around it. But if that style does not work in this game, then a new style must be shown.
And I don't feel like SKT want to leave Galio open on red side. on blue side, you do have more of the freedom to ban it away, but leaving it open and having potentially Uzi return to one of his hyper carries and get to that mid to late game power is not necessarily an appetizing thing for them to opt into. They've played it 3 times themselves, but picks and bans, even just the first set of bans, and what that actually leads to an invitation when it comes to, is the Sejuani up? Do they go for the Jarvan? The jungle matchup really has been the pivotal one, because it's been 2 games of MLXG helping his mid and top lane respectively get ahead, compared to 1 game of Blank really being able to set the pace of game 2.
And one more note on the screen, of course, looking at junglers here. Peanut is still getting set up. As we know, he's been subbed in here for this crucial game 4 backs against the wall. So I think his computer's still getting ready. I've been told about 2 minutes, maybe 1.5 now at this point, until we are ready to get in the game. So pretty shortly we will be having this one for you. Again, backs against the wall. SKT must win 2 straight. Their current record in elimination at World 0 and 7. That would have to be, sorry, 7-0, and they would have to make that now 9-0 if they can close out this series.
And again, back to our conversation of discussing changes in strategy and champions and the look for SK Telecom. If you break down actually what we've seen from RNG here, and everyone talking about how the style that RNG have shown all tournament long of Uzi on a late game carry, playing for those later game team fights, him doing the brunt of the work here, carrying damage shares in team fights. In this series, it has been Xiaohu who actually has a higher damage percentage than Uzi. You know, he had a very successful game there on Rise. Xiaohu's got 30% of the team's damage so far in this series compared to Uzi's 25. So even RNG are taking this series with a different look than they have the rest of the tournament. And you see flickers of the old RNG and flickers of some LPL style, them bringing it back here. They are a diverse set of players here that are remaining dynamic.
I mean, it's been so interesting having them really be heavily on the Uzi train, but MLXG hasn't played around bot lane this tournament. We remember all the games with Tristana Soraka where they push up, Soraka gets ganked predictably, MLXG is off in the top side. I think he was largely ineffectual making map plays in the quarterfinals, but his play around Xiaohu, remember the older story. This has been a Worlds where the recent form has mattered, but also the storylines from the summer LPL and LCK have mattered as well. It was MLXG playing through mid and then Xiaohu unlocking the map. Xiaohu has been able to do that this game. It's been more about that duo than the stall until Uzi is online.
Yeah, it's been that sort of pay it forward story where jungler ganks for the solo laners and then the solo laners with globals can go to the bottom and get credit for that extra pressure to this side of the map.
We are ready now for champion select in game 4. Will this be the end of SKT's era? Or do they pull it back as they always have so many times before? Sejuani immediately off the table. They will not give that over to MLXG. It's the only champion he's won on so far this series. Unsurprisingly, the Kalista dropped out on red side as well.
Interesting to see a blue side ban of the Sejuani. Specifically, the Sejuani has been a good pick for Peanut in the Cinderhulk meta, so opting out of it as a first pick means that Jarvan seems to be more likely their first pick champion.
And it makes me think that SK Telecom don't want to give up on the Galio train that they've been full steam ahead with here.
Sure.
So, because they don't want to give the Sejuani back on the other side of that to RNG, we'll have to take a look and see if it does actually turn out this way, though, because as you mentioned, the Jarvan is a huge pick for MLXG, for Royal Nevergood. That is a champion where, speaking of dynamic players, you know, he was known for going for level 2 ganks. You know, red buff right into early pressure. Like, this guy definitely has a lot of looks.
His pathing on the Jarvan can be so creative. His EQ combo to interrupt the rocket jump we saw in the quarterfinals was memorable as well. So with all those options, sort of pick that's likely to be first picked if up for SKT. Start to think about first pick given that Lulu has been deprioritized as a first pick champion. Tristana taken away as well. And the Rakan, interestingly, is the ban. So Xayah is open as well.
It's another situation where I think RNG don't want to have to pick Rakan in the first round red side and say you can take Xayah if you want to, but they don't want to grab it for themselves. So that same Twitch, Tarek, Lulu, all those situations still available. Galio, not a huge surprise. And Jarvan, Gragas as jungle trades easily available for SKT.
Going to chalk so far, as we expected. They stick to that Galio. Now, they still have the possibility of throwing in an extra wrinkle because Galio could be swapped to top lane. However, I don't expect that to happen.
The only time we saw it was at MSI when the champion had just been reworked, was not a common pick at all in the top lane. Maybe one game in all of LCK somewhere, and it wasn't Huni. So expected to be a mid laner like you mentioned, Kobe, and no surprise that Jarvan takes the early impact here. It feels like Chinese region had the highest priority consistently on the Jarvan during summer season. It is technically the flex pick, even if we heavily expect MXG to take it as, well, they're happy to opt into what they expect to be the mid lane matchup very early.
And a lot of counter pick priority as well. So many teams would rush pick the Lulu if you look at the earlier pick stats. Oh, Janet's at the table. We need Lulu. She's so important. Play the hyper carry scaling. And they would rather wait to see the bot lane react to what SKT is showing. It is Lulu themselves. They are playing much more now in the later games to the tournament metagame.
Now, the Taric is still up as well, and that kind of gives you comfort if you still want an Ardent Sensor user, and RNG can utilize that pick from the bottom side. But look at that. Lulu Kog'Maw is one of the most feared combinations in League of Legends on this patch.
And what are they saying now? SKT, for the first time this series, is saying, all right, we've tried to play early to mid game 3 times. They're opting into late game scaling here. Galio as a bridge and Kog Lulu, one of the most famous duos of AD carry and support of all time. I think SKT are slowing down the pace and opting into a longer game.
And this is a huge point. We need to elaborate on why this combination is so big, because it is that big of a pick. Kog'Maw as Rageblade synergizes so well with Ardent Sensor, as we talked about before. So once you complete this single item, the Lulu not only provides the extra speed for the Kog'Maw to play frontline, to play aggressively with the extra shields and with that extra speed, that you get the most out of all those synergies we talked about earlier with Ardent Sensor, with the Rageblade, stacking each other up.
Throw in Wild Growth, throw in speed, throw in also the Galio ultimate, and a frontline Kog'Maw is a possibility for the side of SKT. They haven't over-indexed into something like a Juggernaut yet. They're leaving options open. Ezreal actually banned on the red side. Of course, one of those dueling aggressive junglers we've seen a little bit at Worlds.
That's what I was going to call our attention to, is we haven't seen the jungle pickup yet for Peanut.
Italy
what is he going to play? Exactly. You've got to expect. Sure, the metagame is the metagame. We all know the tanks are a big deal, but Gragas just being left on the table. They don't think Peanut's going to do that, even though it was, to my knowledge, his most played of the entire summer split. They think it's the carry style that they want to bring out of him.
It's an old pick for him, but Freak, he has not played a single game of Nidalee on SK Telecom T1. He's played none of it because the meta moved away from it, and yet it's a read that it fits so well into the team comp, they couldn't allow Peanut to take it.
You can tell where RNG are coming from. The only thing they're scared of from Peanut is if they saw Rox Peanut come out in this game.
Yep.
If they saw Rox Peanut, then that would be something that would be worth banning out here. And they spent 2 bans on early game aggressive junglers just because of that jungler swap.
At least still up, though, if he wants to play that kind of style here. They've already got a tank in the mid lane.
But then they have so much magic damage. They are heavily indexing on magic damage. If it was Rox Peanut, you would have expected the Elise, but Gragas seems likely, even though it's on the magic side. We're going to see the Gnar locked
and
in.
after it all,
the Gragas as well. Gragas can do some interesting things to Twitch and Soraka in team fights if he can separate the threats. The Gnar is an important one. It may be a blind pick, it may be against the Jarvan. When he came in 2 games down against Longzhu in the LCK final, it was the Gnar. He was able to take down Camille from Khan in that particular game. So it is kind of a good luck omen for SKT.
I think the Gragas does fit really well in with protecting Kog'Maw, one of the few junglers that does have another disengage.
Rumble gonna make his entrance. A high damage team out of Royal Never Give Up. The only tank gonna be that Jarvan from MLXG, and he's got Warrior earlier this series. Straka to keep them healthy though if they can.
And a lot of possibilities here for RNG actually spiking on just a couple of items. Rumble, Rise can both excel in that scenario, even though you think of, oh yeah, Twitch always needs to scale up and get crit multipliers going. They have so much that could be carried by strong solo lanes earlier.
And so many tasty options for MLXG to gank, even mid lane with Rise and Jarvan. We saw a mid lane focus last game. It's possible here, but swinging top lane or bot lane, there are 3 options. However, you see the Soraka on the side of RNG. You expect that SKT will try to play around bot side.
Well, speaking of bot side, though, I think there's a couple of important things to think about here. You talk about a sped-up Kog'Maw, getting Whimsy, getting the shield, getting Ardent Sensor, slowed down permanently by a Rumble Ultimate, shot at from long range by the extended reach of Twitch Ultimate here out of Uzi. It might be hard, even though you have a Lulu and Gragas and Galio, to just be a Kog'Maw against RNG's composition. Depending on execution, it always depends on this. Bang might not get to do much in a team fight.
That's exactly why I like that last pick, Rumble. Not only can you go into the Gnar and try and make that arms race for the first item, but also making Kog'Maw move in team fights rather than auto attack during the W cooldown.
Really important thing to point right here. Bang actually did go Storm Raider Surge on Kog'Maw. I think it is by far the best team fighting Keystone choice. And with the slower resistance, he can actually get through that Rumble ultimate.
Exactly. That's why we put so much emphasis on speed, because you want to abuse that W cooldown for Kog'Maw, and that's why Lulu's such a good combination. You can make the offensive plays during that heightened time of power.
And this is the time to shine above all else. If there was ever a game for RNG to win in the career of their team, it is this one right now. 2-1 up against the defending world champions. The dynasty of SKT, the team that could almost never be truly dethroned. And maybe RNG can do it here.
Dynasty may not end with a loss here, but the Odyssey would. You know, the short-term story would end. It would be the end of that undefeated streak. So that's why you hear so much quiet around the crowd. They know they may be seeing history in the making.
Exactly. Even the possibility of SKT getting knocked out this early would be such a huge part of history. The continued dominance of SK Telecom is something to marvel at. Multiple years here, different patches, different metas, different competitors. They've overcome them all in the past. But now they face a new one.
It's going to be fun to watch for just how they can do. SKT's back's against the wall. They know this is the moment that they must seize. And actually going to get a red buff leash pretty easily out from Let Me. We'll see pretty similar stuff for Peanut on his own red side.
I want to talk a bit about the draft from SKT. It still has the spirit of some of the previous drafts, as Uzi had a ward on the red, and at least try and harass down this Raptor start. Denying the super leash here, RNG.
Best they can, and looks like none of them got stolen away. Just the one small Raptor towards Faker himself. Peanut still going to be easily able to grab this red buff and level up pretty much on pace.
And, you know, whenever that happens, even by accident, you have to talk about the experience gain in mid lane and being able to hit level 2 earlier. MLXG, though, as we talked about on Jarvan, Papa Smithy, going for a very early play here.
Peanut had to use Flash because of the low patience meter on the red buff. So he's actually, so he used Smite, on the red buff. So it's down right now, and MXG's smelling blood at the blue buff.
I think he does see Peanut goes for the knockup, finds some damage. Red buff on me, he got some damage output. Peanut running towards the blast code, gonna stay alive on this. MLXG able to smite away and take one of the wolves. Takes number 2, takes number 3, gets an entire camp away.
Wonderful multi-step invasion plan, denying the super leash by contesting the Raptors, and also, with the smite being forced, counter jump.
Not only does he take away a camp, not only does he get to counter jungle, but he secures the top half of the map for Let Me on this Rumble. Gnar into Rumble is notoriously easily swung by junglers, and could be an area of focus for him to kind of isolate this issue.
It does create some safety here from it does mean, though, that Peanut is on the bot side, and being a Uzi should give them a little bit of respect right here. Looking at their wards early on, they don't have just more than a single river ward here.
See Jarvan actually pathing through mid, trying to get onto the blue, already confirmed by Peanut. They want to try and catch him, and he's gone for the steal.
Thing is here, not going to land the slow, but does block the bot in for a few seconds, but watch out, the rest of the squad is here. Peanut gets out safely.
Again, smart move here from Peanut to go towards the bottom lane that doesn't have crowd control. He doesn't want to walk through the Dragon Pit. He doesn't want to go anywhere towards upriver, moves immediately into the Soraka, so ends up not even having to blow his flash and gets away with that blue buff trade.
Now, keeping track of the junglers, MLXG has taken one extra camp. He got the entire wolf camp and the blue buff. Peanut only stole the blue, so there is less farm available to the SKT.
And it's also the control freak. It's also that they're deciding where the game is being played. They're allowing Rumble to overextend and get his first item, at least get safe CS on the top side, and not have to worry about Gnar potentially being able to take his sort of lane control. And on the bot side, they end the vertical jungling early to also provide coverage for the Soraka.
Exactly. Early game control, early game vision is such a step-by-step snowballing process that now it affords Let Me the easy access there up into the jungle, and he'll again have deep vision on his side.
Here we go, looking back at the state of the game right here. Only 100 difference. That's pretty much what a jungle camp is worth, so no surprise that's the mark. We're seeing bot lane trade equal, mid lane similarly, top also. Let Me gonna be, looks like receiving the wave shortly. And actually not able to kill the ward, but does spot Faker, and of course Faker can easily mess with the Raptor camp. Q on cooldown, pulls it away.
And a common trend for Faker to at least invade top side to try and get pressure and information for Huni in particular. This time it won't be a gank attempt onto the Rumble, but at least lets him know where MLXG is at, and they actually invest a pink ward, a control ward here, to try and add that extra bit of doubt to Gnar as he starts to overextend naturally in the Gnar versus Rumble matchup.
Meanwhile, while they have vision of MLXG on the top side, Peanut is working on the bottom half of the map, and he's zoning off Uzi and MLX. Oh, they've actually cut him off.
Spotted again. Here comes the damage up, but aggro pulled right there. They're going to get a bit of damage across. A couple of summoners burned, but Wolf forces a flash away. 2 summoners on each side use the defensive ones for RNG, and the flash out from Wolf.
They're on vision very smartly there. They had 2 wards in the blue side jungle, knew there was no chance that Jarvan would be on that side, weren't able to pick up the kill.
And the punishment is MLXG takes away 1 or 2 more camps, got 2/3 the Wolves, getting the crop the first time around. Peanut might just repeat his attempt here, and remember, no barrier or heal left now.
There is a teleport for Rumble, but that would be the only assistance that would be able to join this bottom lane. Uzi and Ming just focusing on that minion wave to try and clear out any possibility of a dive.
And because it's been trading down, not picking up camps, it's actually going to be level 5, I believe, from MLXG, either from the Scuttle Crab or just after. Yeah. So the price of making all those repeated ganks with no actual kill involvement and even losing both summoners on Wolf is pretty severe for the Brothers.
And Uzi's getting away with a pretty greedy opening. Yes, he's down a little bit in farm, but he went for the Relic Shield start versus the Doran Shield of Bang right here. So doing a pretty good job of just further shoving Ming ahead, giving him an extra farm, and the power spike probably comes in first for the RNG bot lane as a result.
MLXG has tried to set the pace of this game with the assistance of his team, and largely it has worked out. Peanut has been corralled into only making plays around a Relic Shield, Twitch and Soraka that clearly are looking for a non-interactive lane. So the pressure game is being dictated by RNG, which is a great start for them.
Exactly, it's a bottom lane that is expecting his presence. They've corralled him is a perfect word, as there's only a small area of Peanut's jungle that is not covered by RNG vision. The snowballing effect, that domino effect we talk about of the vision, has continually been replaced by RNG as each ward expires.
We've seen Let Me several times walk down into that jungle, put the wards down, get rid of blast points if he sees them. MLXG doing the same thing. I mean, really smart setups right here to punish some of the moves of SKT, red buffs, and the like respawning as Peanut 5 on his way to 6.
And the coolest thing is it all came from the level 1. They got control over topside because they invaded first the Super Leash and also forced a smite out of Peanut given the timings. Then they controlled topside, and Rumble being able to push out of lane and ward is not commonplace in the Gnar versus Rumble matchup. So it was all designed pre-game and executed beautifully by RNG.
So much of the next few minutes of this game will be determined by those solo laners as well. Top laners have not gone back for a purchase yet, even though teleports are available. If you think of Rumble level 6 ultimate, you know, could be a huge game changer for a bottom lane fight. Those will be coming to play without those purchases.
It's true. So far, the top laners pretty poor, haven't gone back yet. TP, of course, a vitally important cooldown now. Can't be used to go back to lane anymore without giving up a ton of map pressure. RNG actually get to see 1 ward for themselves. The first one barely missed it, but looking again at the chance of an invade, they know this blue buff is up, and once again, they're going for the steal. Peanut is around, he's got the vision on it as well. Does he get the smite? No, MLXG grabs it. Could not hand it over to Xiao, who he would have been outsmited by Peanut.
But again, Let Me has lane control, would have had first roam on the Rumble and the long range of the Equalizer, even if something like the Hero's Entrance was invested. So the timing was perfect by RNG.
And this continued invasion here from RNG is so much about limiting the options for Peanut. So they know that all he has left now is a cross map over to their own blue, which is protected by a Scuttle Crab. Currently, he's making his way in there, but it's so dangerous that he has to make the early game work here. He gets the Scuttle Crab first, so a possible speed boost if he has to make a hasty exit.
All right, and TP goes to lane for Mahoney, so if there is a skirmish on the bot side, he is not able to join. They're relying on Faker to tip that balance to the mid side then.
And exactly as we talked about, RNG, he's playing right into their hand. They know they've limited his options so heavily that this is the only one, and they have the Rise in the mid lane. They have Xiao, who's been retaining that mid lane control. That means he'll also retain control of blue buff, which then is going to be able to snowball into more. Oh, never mind.
He was going to die to red. He put in 1 too many autos, and he knew it was going to time out. He said, sorry, Xiao, I screwed it up. He gets some honey fruit, but it's just not as good. The crowd knows. You hear the murmurs. MLXG, this was the game. You denied a blue from Rise.
Well, he's trying to use it to good use. Comes into a control ward. It's not spotted yet, but good bot lane sense by Bang & Wolf.
He's coming down through and doing good damage. One more auto. He'll get Storm Raiders running a bit fast, and MLXG turn back to dodge him. There's an ulti for wave clear, it looked like. That was a little strange out of Let Me. Seemed a bit strange. Maybe he had smart cast on, didn't realize it, but seemed out of place. A Smite gets rid of some of the Krugs, and MLXG continues to take some of the camps away from Peanut. Retains that 1-level lead.
SKT clearly opting into longer laning phase. It was a late call coming through from Huni around 8 minutes, so happy to continue going. Texture of the comp is different with the comp more Lulu, so more trust in the late game damage.
This elimination game has been the calmest early game we have had all series long here. We haven't even seen Faker on Cali, who's been roaming constantly in all of the other games. Make side lane moves. Xiaolu here on the rise has kept him in place, at least for the time being.
Well, here comes the attempt in the mid lane. Xiaolu cutting around the flash to rejoin. Here's the ulti to find some damage on a Faker. Jumps right back out, knows it's not a fight they can win. RNG down a flash for that play, though.
Seemed unnecessary from MLXG. There wasn't going to be kill pressure there. Decided to invest everything, flash and ultimate, to make something happen. SKT walk away. They trade up in terms of summoners.
Yeah, MLXG thought there was going to be a more commitment from SKT than there was there. See if this does come back to haunt them, because those summoner spells for that duo have been incredibly important. Now he's half health, walking down and chasing Peanut out of his own jungle.
Fight for the Grump. Smite won by Peanut. Fight comes in. RNG is here. No sounds to be had. The knockup is over. But overall he goes. Finds those body slam. Explosive cast back into the squad. But look at that from MLXG. The flag and drag perfectly buffered to get back to safety.
No ultimate meant they couldn't lock down. That's why things went longer. If that cooldown was up, maybe things are different. He gets out. But SKT, for the first time, have a bit of a nose ahead when it comes to the jungle matchup.
Baker also, completes his recall during that invade, so they were not planning on diving in there. Here we go, Hoodie with the trade on to Let Me. Significant.
Pretty solid damage. The shield comes back in, and once again, an ulti for wave clear. I was told, just like the last one, it has been wave clear equalized for Let Me, doing just that to the farm.
Means the turret HP is more and more likely to stay high, so at the end of the day, doing his best to keep the turret up.
Service minions.
Big assist coming through his mid lane.
Ooh, big knockup there for Faker. Now in a 1v2, pulls in the taunt, does not get the knockup. Good shoot there. And here comes Peanut around the wings. They've got to be a bit careful. Double body slam, a bit of a slow, and here comes Hero's entrance. Wish! Just the health bar, they walk away anyway.
Well, everybody's been on the receiving end of an annoying Soraka ultimate before. Maybe we'll see SKT prioritize some grievous wounds early on, because Ming and this Soraka pick have been so big for RNG at this Worlds tournament, and it can be answered.
They see the grand entrance be used, and that's why they feel like they can go on the front foot, try to contest the red buff here from Peanut.
Good smite. Peanut actually doing a really good job with these smite fights. I think he's won every straight-up duel that's been available to him. Sometimes he's been down, but otherwise a pretty good job. Pharaoh gets a bit more, and maybe looking for the play here. Faker has the taunt ready. This could be the first kill of the game. The knockups continue on. MLXG goes to the knockup, but there are no more spells to land. A couple of getting himself a right at first blood in an exciting game.
Faker ran out of mana, was in position to put down the Winds of War. Ran out of mana, they ran out of damage, and actually, Peanut falls.
Again, the mid lane jungle, 2 versus 2. So critical in this early game, First Blood, and so much control going over to RNG.
The decision to go back in with the Cataclysm, low health, realizing in the moment that SKT did not have the damage to pick up the kill. We're going to see the replay. Faker starts this with 1 spell's worth of mana, and that ends up being the big crux for SKT not being able to pick up the kill.
They saw the low health Jarvan. They wanted to punish his flashless body here, but he's able to position the flag and get on the other side, so also getting the knockup and buying Xiaohu time to finish off Peanut.
Big deal right there. 1,400 gold now, the lead for Royal Never Give Up. Certain percent of that Turtle of Relic Shield, it's earned about 575 so far, so you can say half the gold lead is the Relic Shield start, but if it works, it works. RNG, Ardent Sensor available in the bot lane. This is similar for SKT. Once again, the fight for blue buff. MLXG wants it for himself. Who's going to win? Once again, it's Peanut.
Look how bold MLXG is now. I mean, he's invading. His mid laner was walking past his first turret at that point. Faker channeling the recall, and SKT are giving up so much control.
I mean, Faker was greedy. He hadn't backed ever since they were unable to pick up the kill. In lane with less than 1 rotation's worth of mana, less than 1 spell's worth of mana. Great timing, and now that's both buffs contested, even if the smites have been true from Peanut.
We keep seeing a still fairly controlled game. Most of the other lanes, though, top and bot lane, just splitting farm back and forth. We had seen some interesting fights, but none of them turned into kills. Junglers had yet to actually join those fights yet. Cloud Drake available, tends to be a slow one killed. Quick rip clear now for Xiaohu.
Level 11 hit on Let Me. Right now, Equalizer not up, but soon will be. And also, the Abyssal Mask is so clean here, as it will also buff up the damage from Let Me. BF Sword towards an Infinity Edge. 2 items on Uzi. I can tell you one thing, RNG will be looking for any fight they can get, because it's so hard for SKT to win one.
Well, SKT right now, everybody piling up through the river to try and support this mid lane push. That now MFC finds himself sandwiched in between 2 opposing members and should be able to slide his way out. But you bring up this point, right? There's not much time left before Bang is able to convert all these pieces into the Rage Blade.
Yeah.
And we bring it back to SK Telecom's view of this match. So much of their faith has been put in the bottom lane. Bang and Wolf has been up and down this tournament. They have not always been deserving of that faith. Yet this game, in the elimination game, the Kog'Maw Lulu will be coming online soon.
300 gold is the clip he needs until he can afford the blade. The Rage Blade combined. Here comes the gank to the bot side. The join to be here. Nope, he's gonna get away from that one. The TP canceled as well. Let Me saved his. So Faker on a cancel, losing a bit of that cooldown. Realm Warp, of course, the same kind of situation, and back they go to their respective lanes.
Realm Warp abandoned, didn't need to take it through, realized the gank wasn't gonna come off, and they got the summon and spell trade. With the teleport going down, so advantage there for the side of RNG. MXG has spent the best part of the last 3 minutes in this brush.
Not quite the knock up there, Faker walking away, and yeah, the shield's simply too good. He's got that magic to stack, and Cinder Hulk gonna rise, not gonna really get through that. The pressure on the bot side, 3 versus 2. How much does Uzi have to be afraid of this? Takes another heal. It's been a bit more, heals back up with the auto attacks. Keep the turret alive a little bit longer, but it is slowly getting whittled down. Bang now actually does have Rage Blade money. At a certain point, he just wants to recall for the power spike itself.
Want a lot of people to realize, in a lot of these games we've seen with the Kog'Maw bot lane or the just one of the Rage Blade carries bot lane have involved a tank top who will teleport behind as Galio comes in and force a faster turret from going down, a first blood turret in the bot lane. Because SKT have not played top lane tanks outside of Maokai in game 1 of the entire Worlds, they don't have a setup for this. Huni has been focused on lane regardless of pick this entire series, and that's why these first blood turrets are so late. It's 18 minutes in, and the Relic Shield Twitch is pretty comfortable bot lane.
A couple of nice skill shots there, but you're seeing the fruit start to bear. You're seeing Huni get the push going, and might just be it. Yes, the team is coming across. Huni gonna walk away. Realm Warp gets Xiaohu behind, and suddenly Huni in a 1v4. Landing into Rune Press, into silence, into the root. There's no way out just yet. The attack's still coming through. Huni has the flash, won't use it. Uzi finds kill number 2 of the game.
RNG call for the lane swap to move Uzi and Ming up to the top side, but again, Xiaohu has been so big for this team, especially in the early game.
And the game is never being fought in the pre-match game plan for SKT. They were ready to make that turret dive, ice down the first turret blood, and get more. RNG read that, go topside, gets the Rift Herald on the back of it as well. They gain tempo, even though they're lane swapping first. Really impressive stuff from RNG, and Huni, he didn't read the play.
One of the plays that you can get a Rumble is prevent that 2-for-2 trade. He completely stymies the bot lane push continuing. That tier 2 turret's going to be safe. It will be a turret trade. First one did go to SKT, meaning that gold lead, the extra 350 for that, of course, is theirs. Countered by the kill they got, of course, on a Huni. We stay in a 1,000 gold difference game. This Kog'Maw has not been stopped. He has highest farm on the team, and he's going for turret number 2 now.
But meanwhile, RNG have the Rift Herald in their topside push. It looks like they're not willing to use it though, and SK Telecom will come out with a 2-for-1 turret trade there, in addition to getting the first turret bonus.
Makes you wonder if the Baron spawning in 30 seconds and creating something like they did in game 3, the next level Rift Herald play is something they're considering.
Definitely a possibility, especially since it's so early in the game that previous Baron vision has not been placed on this side of the map. You know, RNG are the ones with supreme vision control in this blue quadrant, and SKT are starting up the Cloud Drake.
Doing the last they can on the bottom of the map before that Baron spawns. And here we go, a knock at the one and Hootie. He's still got the flash, but he's silenced. Inside the pit, finally jumps out, and Faker rejoins the play. As the Cloud Drake falls, it's Faker's turn to run away, but he's not taking much meaningful damage. Jumps into a wall and walks away in his magic damage shield, blocking most of it anyway. Stays just fine on this. No Infinity Edge for Uzi means he's not the scary team fighter yet. He's got the gold to go still until he gets to that point. Tied game in gold now because of that bot lane tier 2 falling. Shahu wants to rejoin the mid lane.
Rumble ultimate on cooldown for this wave, so he can't clear this one out, but it's coming up soon. And speaking of AD carries to fear, Bane goes very deep.
The power spike is in. Rage Blade plus Arc Sensor and Lulu giving him the buffs. He can single-handedly push champions away. That is what Juggernaut is about. The name of that famed Kog'Maw Lulu combo. You can be the frontliner, push the team away. They knew Faker could protect him.
Certainly worked out in that particular area, so you wonder again why the Rift Herald wasn't used to cement SKT needing to be in full defensive formation around the inner bot lane turret. We will find out in the next minute or so as the duration starts to tick down. MLXG was able, and RNG together were able to monopolize vision around the blue side. The Baron threat is there, but they have to actually find a way to get the lanes back in position to actually make that a possibility.
Kobe, how much did it hurt you to see MLXG fully leash the red buff down to 1 HP and then be like, my AD carry's not coming, and have to walk away and give it out?
Time
Painful?
wasted for a jungler is definitely one of the most painful things to observe, but it's definitely worth it for RNG. Uzi does have his Infinity Edge.
Yeah.
You know, the basic crit multipliers are there for him, and a red buff to boot. There's so much riding on this. Will the Jarvan and Rumble dive be enough to kind of mitigate the Kog'Maw damage by means of making him move during the W?
I think getting a summoner out of Bang would start to answer that question.
All right, good buffs out of Lulu, keeping him safe. I like how Wolf is out of range and out of sight for a lot of that. Nice attempt, though.
Yeah, summoners down on Bang, and I think Team 5 victory you ink in for the side of RNG with Infinity Edge and Hurricane already complete, but pressuring out those summoners is difficult to do. RNG's playstyle, especially with Twitch, has been pushing out a minion wave with Uzi and then having him back away and threaten that he's roaming around the map. They're not usually consistently trying to take down the early turrets. That means that the game can extend through this sort of move.
Itemization always is so important as well with compositions like SKT are running. If so much faith has been put in Bang, every purchase is incredibly important. And we mentioned the double AP solo laners and the power that they can bring to these mid-game fights. So Bang has actually gone for that second item Wit's End, which to me always shouts the defensive proponent part of that item, right? The defensive purposes there are for stacking up that magic resist so that he doesn't have to worry as much about the Rumble ultimate damage, about that Rise damage. However, it means that, you know, it is going to be up to him to walk away from the Uzi engages that we just saw before.
It does delay the Hurricane, which is usually that big 2-item spike that may be important.
They're going to find out who needed red buff. Slow's going to make it nice. His flash already down from before his hop, you imagine, was, but okay, at least it's still Summoner's Burn. Nice play by RNG.
But given that the Hurricane's mostly about taking down tanks, not as high value, he'll get it eventually. But I think going for the extra magic resistance shred is probably smartest. Here we go.
Flash forward, they catch them both in. Flash for 2. That's a good trade, and RNG get mid lane.
A great trade right there as MLXG goes in with the Flash ultimate. And now everybody's very well aware this Kog'Maw and Lulu combo will be sitting ducks.
And guess what RNG take from that? We have about 4 minutes to actually start Baron, turn, and Equalizer and the Jarvan Cataclysm will do the rest of the work. This is definitely the alarm sounding for SKT. No summoners on Bang. They need to find a way to keep wrestling for Baron control, because that's what RNG want right now.
I do want to correct myself. It was also a Ming flash. They tried to go for Cataclysm Silence to prevent the way out entirely. We saw that sort of similarly out of Cloud. Now with a Singed pick, the grounding can be similar, but the Soraka Silence, of course, also turns off flashes. Either way, it was still 2 for 3 summoners as Wolf burned his heal for movement speed. But as you're mentioning, again, no way out of Cataclysm now for Bang. Once that ability comes back from cooldown, MLXG can guarantee the trap on the SKT AD carry.
The groundwork has been laid for this next team fight. This could be so critical as we see all of these control wards from RNG kind of up and down the river. But SK Telecom have been playing very defensively, not really presenting that opportunity. They know that Uzi's lurking around here as the camouflage twitch, just waiting to open up.
Pushing out 1 minion away, backing away, teleport very
they're going
aggressively.
Now jumping in, looking for the slow TP coming around the wings as well. This could be the fight. And let's be back on the other side. He's going to find a face and a faker. Head points getting dropped lower and lower, time to back in, but Bang's W on cooldown means he can't get the auto attacks. Peanut now rejoining. Could go for the cast, is going to knock him right back in. MLXG gets him to the wall, though, and Wish keeps him safe, and he is going to get away. Bang goes for the snipe, not going to land it. A juke out of Jarvan.
Wish is such a huge cooldown for this team, though, that SK Telecom are starting up the Baron.
Deathly injured Jarvan makes it hard to steal away. Uzi does have the ulti though. In comes the team with a flash to get away. They're so afraid of what Hootie can do to them. With the Meganar, Uzi on the wings, he to buy some space, but he gets shot down. The Kog'Maw damage is there, and the chase back in. Bang will not be felled. He will find more targets than Xiaohu to lose his life as well. Another one in for Hootie. That's 4 for nothing, SKT.
Kiteback was so big for SKT. Taking down Uzi with the Winds of War was the big factor that couldn't get the huge ult. The equalizer wasn't enough. The spray and pray not enough, and now they want Baron.
SK Telecom put their faith in Bang, and he stands tall with all of their defenses. Now the Baron will be easily claimed, and SKT once again will pressure.
No one in range to steal a clean smite out of Peanut. And SKT do not back down with their backs against the wall. They do not exit from Worlds early. Looking to make this 2-2 in this series.
So watch this. Faker has only one thing in mind. He wants to peel off and flash onto the enemies. RNG respect a flash taunt. He gets nothing from it. You think, okay, is this the moment? But SKT Bang in the front line, able to just chase down, and they kill Uzi early.
And we get to see displayed right in this critical team fight what we talked about in Champion Select about the power of Lulu Kog'Maw. Uzi flashed away early in that fight, yet a Lulu speed up onto Bang allows him to close that distance without any summoner spell of his own. He just walks up with the red buff and he finds the priority kill.
And normally you can respect Uzi's mechanics in a team fight, moving between auto attacks. At a certain point, he only ran in a straight line. Against Storm Raiders Kog'Maw, you do not build distance in any way against Bang's champion, and he's took basically free-firing auto attacks, did not answer back. And with how low Bang got in that fight, if Uzi had autoed, it would have at least been a trade kill. Now we are in the situation of SKT in control, 3,500. Let me, unfortunately, the man on your screen has been unable to get much done this game. No participation in anything, only a death in the prior team fight. But Void Staff in, maybe he can find something. Uzi, the primary carries here, but so far it's been Bang doing more of it.
Because we've seen MLXG play through mid lane, he hasn't been going top lane. We've seen Equalizer use basically off cooldown for wave clear to extend the laning phase against the Gnar, because he hasn't often been in position for an Equalizer outside of the one that couldn't get the team fight won about 3 minutes ago. So let me, on a different type of champion, hasn't really got the help from his team. That's why the game's kind of happened around the Rumble.
Go for the silence, no root to be had, so Faker getting away with this one. The siege can continue, but they've got to respect what the engage could be. Bang gonna walk up, only a single auto at a time. Respectful with his flash still down of what could be happening. Even still, mid-turret falls 5-2 in turrets.
You can see how helpless RNG are at this point in the game. With Baron buff given over to this such substantial Kog'Maw composition here, the front line beefy, and the back line fed.
It's pretty non-interactive, Kobe. Gnar is pushing. There's only been 6 kills in 28 minutes. But with the Baron buff, they're going to start threatening here, SKT.
Top of the rise, the re-engage on the backside. Do they have the explosive damage they need? The re-engage, but look at the AoE! And he's shredding everybody! And now Faker forced to run with the team suddenly in front of him. He's got nowhere to go! They've surrounded him, and Faker, without a flash, without a prayer, double kill for Uzi!
When they needed the most, the spiciest of hot pots, laid down there with the Rumble ultimate over all members of SKT. That took out almost half the team.
That was the clutch play that RNG have been reaching for. It buys them huge control of the map. Hootie is still alive, so they cannot push through mid lane and take any objectives there. But they were about to lose their inhibitor against the Baroned up SKT, who had to invest almost nothing since the previous fight win. Watch for the layering here. Bang starts this fight with his flash.
MLXG flashes in for the Cataclysm on Kog'Maw, then he knocks him up long enough for the silence to cut down, and Rumble Ultimate destroys all of the remaining members.
He dies with flash available because, like you say, silenced into the root effect from silence, not able to get out. Bang was the cornerstone of the team. He won them the previous fight, but him dying there meant that SKT fell apart like a pack of cards.
And it's still a lot to work back from, though. I think the compositions are closely matched, and the gold still 2,500 up for SKT. There's normally the Korean squad who's so good in late game situations and coming back from deficits. RNG still has to make up the issues. You're seeing finally damage come out from Let Me, but double that out of the Twitch. Uzi was on 2.5 items already, and now he's got a Shiv done, so it only gets higher from there.
I mean, without Nada, there was never going to be real threat onto Uzi after the team started kiting backwards, and Bang fell down. So, but here on the screen, the teamfight KDAs, it's been close, but RNG have been the team fighting gods of World 2017.
Good sound gets rid of what could have been a body slam for a couple of seconds. Teamfight KDA battles, which has at least 4 players from each team. Both these squads have been very good in those large situations. RNG had even better stats coming into this match, but SKT have tested them quite a bit.
And while it is especially the carry members, the backline, that always come out with the best KDAs. You know, Xiaohe and Uzi coming into this had the top 2 of the entire tournament. The frontline setup is so important. And how MLXG was able to buy that time on getting Bang caught long enough. Oh, here we go.
They've got himself a little bit explosive cast buys a few more seconds, and now they can find themselves Soraka Wish to buy a little bit more. They're going to jump away. Redemption gets some more health as well. That is several ultis down, but not Uzi's. Twitch still has it.
Exactly. And the flash from Uzi is blown, while Bang now on Kog'Maw has his. Such a huge turning point in these team fights are whether the AD carry will live through the initial engagement.
I wonder if Uzi just used ultimate to try to clear this wave. No equalizer available.
Gotta respect the flash out of all the tanks, though. Huni can do it, so can Faker. Gotta respect it. He's not gonna go in just yet. Looking for backline access now. A slow. No, yet the spray and pray, and will be a disengage so far. SKT, the re-engage, but he's tanky. It's not an easy kill to go for. And the flash forward. Bang wants to do it. He channels it under Wound, and he gets the kill. Uzi's dead. And without a carry, this could be the game just now. The flash forward. They found the second, a double for the Kog'Maw.
We see it once again. You can't get away from that Kog'Maw. Bang flashes forward, and now SK Telecom inside the base, looking to push this one to a game 5.
And Faker recalls to heal up and TP back here for the next wave. It's all about wave clear then for RNG in the 3v5, but here comes the siege, looking for the turrets, looking to bring it to game number 5. And 5 men strong, they look. There's the taunt, they're going for the kill first in a Xiao, who Huni joins in as well, and he does not have a way out. Bang gets his 3rd in a row. Now the turret's left to fall. Faker gets number 4, and there is no stopping them. Soraka is not going to heal a building. The stone will crumble. RNG will drop in game 4s and continue to find a couple more kills for good measure.
No minion wave here, so it's buying a little bit of time. Ming will die as well. This should be the win for SKT. No SKT fan would have said build around Bang, but that's exactly what they did.
And the Uzi 1v5's knocking him out of the Nexus. Falls SKT! Bring us to game 5!
Step number 1 for SKT complete. They are now 8-0 in elimination matches.
Head in hands, last game. Much more calm is Bang. Like I said, no SKT fan after this World and his struggles would have predicted that building around Bang of all things, taking the Galio that they've gotten 4 games, but turning it into much more of a defensive peel Galio rather than an early game facilitator Galio, actually worked a treat. It was LPL-esque and how they were able to do this. From Rift Rivals, when I was prepping for it, every game, first pick Kog'Maw, get the Galio in there, peel back. It's been the tournament meta as well, but SKT, take a nod from that, and now the Silver Scrape starts again, and it's a game 5.
I gotta say, both side lanes out of SKT I thought performed admirably well. The bot lane won heads up. They got first turret gold for that as well. Huni, outside of being caught the one time in a clever rotation, had priority lots of the time as well, was forcing equalizers to wave clear, but was continually a threat in fights, a big damage dealer, and a great split push.
And the threat in fights is not what he picked for before. Nar straddles the line, lane dominant, but also had the team fight. So it was quintessentially what we saw from Huni earlier, just a little bit different because he actually could team fight.
So a decider on our hands. Game 5 coming up shortly, but for now, let's hear from our analysts about how SKT pulled this series tying game.
Thank you very much, Freak. I wouldn't have it any other way. We are going to Game 5. SK Telecom with the equalizer once again. So tit for tat for both of these teams. Peanut comes in, and they come away with the victory.
And the amount of pressure there for Peanut is enormous, but it's that opportunity to actually come in, as a big-time player, to make a name for yourself, to step up to the plate and be able to perform on this level. And Peanut was under a tremendous amount of pressure in the early stages from MLXG and from RNG in general.
Yeah, and RNG did what I wanted out of the draft. They didn't ban all of the junglers. They still got a strong jungle for MLXG, and he actually had a lot of control in the early game. This match was insanely tense. And at the end of the day, SKT was clutch once again when it mattered, because all RNG would have needed was one big mid-game team fight around Baron. Turns out that's all SKT needed as well, and they were the ones who ended up getting it.
All right, well, let's take a look at that big game team fight, because that's all they needed. Our Acer replay here that gave us a Game 5. SKT 4-for-0 and a Baron.
And all eyes need to be on Uzi, because it's that flash right there. He's got nowhere to go right now. He's put himself into a hole, and his team is trying to dig him out of it. They then rise and put themselves in a horrendous position. SKT take the team fight and then the Baron.
And really the mistake is just the initial positioning, because once you're positioning that far forward, he cannot retreat up because SKT is coming from above, from the Baron pit down towards him, and getting separated like that when you are the focal point of your team, you need to be the one putting out the damage, really did cost them. And I think that Bang and Wolf, for once, did rise to the occasion. They were playing excellently.
And the thing that I think preempted that fight was the fact that MLXG had previously burned a flash on an over-eager gank mid, didn't have flash guard really low in the retreat, and then didn't stick with Soraka to get healed up. But the fact that that's all it took for SKT to then be able to force around that Baron and immediately know that was the right call was very impressive by SKT.
And I want to talk about this word of mentality, and you brought it up, Azale, and pressure. Peanut was under so much pressure coming into an elimination match. SKT are so clutch. We saw Uzi's face after that game. He's just come off of a reverse sweep back in the LPL finals. He had a great Worlds, and now he's starting to find adversity. And Uzi has cracked every single time he comes under that type of pressure.
Yeah, we'll get to Game 5 in just a moment. That dip in the gold graph there, though, Jack, that's what you're talking about, because it was just after that Baron that RNG executes properly on a team fight to mount a base defense, and that's where you see, hey, if that had happened 3 minutes earlier, before the Baron goes down, the Baron's theirs, and they have total control of the game.
Yeah, the Jarvan Soraka Cataclysm into Silence synergy with the Twitch Ultimate and Rumble Ult is awesome when they can pull that off, but what ended up, I think, catching them off guard time and time again was the Storm Raiders Kog'Maw. So many Kog'Maws we see have been going Warlords for the laning phase, and it even seemed a little odd in this game when you're like, man, SKT is really not pressuring around that bottom lane, and they're not breaking the turret, but they were getting what they needed, and both of Uzi's critical deaths were because Bang proc Storm Raiders and was able to run him down.
All right, you got something to say here to finish out this game?
I mean, the most interesting thing to me about this is that SKT played RNG style, right? When we talk about RNG throughout this tournament, it's been taking the scaling comp, taking these compositions and giving up the minimum, never giving up too much to crack, and then having this one big fight that wins the game. And SKT did that to the letter.
Now, with our last few remaining minutes, I want to turn our attention to Game 5, because once again, SKT, now 8-0 on elimination games. I'll throw this other fun stat at you. They are 4-0 in Game 5s at Worlds, of course. So we've pushed ourselves to Game 5 here. They're trying to do it once again, but RNG's on the verge of history if they can take down SKT and push themselves to the finals in Beijing.
I mean, there was a reason why I predicted RNG 3-1. It's because if it went to Game 5, I had no confidence that Uzi would be able to get over his own hurdles. How many times do you put yourself in your situation before you start to believe that you really are cursed, that you can't go the distance? And like we said at the very beginning of the day, Uzi has finished second 10 times. So unfortunately, I think mentality will crack.
Yeah, RNG lost Game 5 of the LPL final as well, which is why they're not the #1 seed out of the LPL. And that daunting number of 8-0 in elimination games is what SKT's got working for them. And it's once again why, like, 3-1 RNG is wrong, clearly, because it's 2-2. So I think SKT is the big favorite in Game 5 based on the history and the way these teams trend as series go on.
The one thing going for Uzi, though, you got to get to the finals to get second place. You got to lose there.
I love it. All right,
So?
there's the vote for Uzi
SKT,
now. You guys have all flip-flopped for each other.
No.
But okay, ignoring mentality, because we've hit this and we've hammered it home, and we know that it's a huge part of this Game 5. Right. what other kinds of adjustments do we want to see here? Because you talk about the fact that SKT kind of adopted the RNG strategy here in Game 4 and beat them with it.
I think it's super interesting, and you can tell the sense of unease in this venue. People are not very confident on RNG. So if RNG wants to find their footing again, I think they go back to something similar to what they did in Game 3.
Okay.
Where they went with the Comfort Maokai pick. They went with the Comfort Vayne pick. They found a way to get the champions they would be most comfortable with, because I feel like that's one of the ways you can isolate the pressure of the matchup. You can stop thinking about all these other things, or if you need to think about that, you're going to be so comfortable on the champion that it might matter less.
Going to throw this in there. The good thing is they're moving back to blue side. As has been mentioned, blue side has won every single game up to this point.
I just want RNG to take away the Galio. Either pick it for yourselves or ban it away. I understand that they probably feel confident enough from Xiaohu that he can compete with it, but why? That's like fighting a fight with one hand tied behind your back. Why put yourself in that deficit?
And I mean, to me, at the end of the day, RNG has to dance with the girl that brought them, right? You played these Protect the Uzi comps throughout Worlds, draft tanks, draft protection for him, and enable him to actually succeed, right? When you're playing with a Galio on one side and you're playing with a Rumble and a Rise on the other, it's so much easier for Bang to succeed in this last game.
But the scary thing about that is that this team domestically found its success and found its pathway to Worlds by playing through Xiaohu. And yes, they have been playing for Uzi at the World Championship, but he's walked into melee range of Galio in one of these games. He flashed the wrong direction on that big team fight. Like, Uzi is starting to make these mistakes.
I agree, but at the end of the day, they're already playing, Xiaohu on Rise, right? They have him on the carry. It's not working in some of these games.
I also feel like Jace, Xayah, and Gragas were RNG's last bans when they're on red side. Just drop the Gragas ban. You're going to be picking a power jungler most likely, and then you don't give Galio away on the rebound. I think that's a quick, different take that RNG can have to mix it up in Game 5. If Faker plays Galio 5 games in a row, that's going to be something that no one predicted.
You got to make the man play something else, right?
Please.
All right, well, the series is tied, and a spot at the Bird's Nest is on the line. See if RNG or SKT are going to the finals when we return.
붙어. 이거 나이스 포그모. 오케이. 끝났어. 게임 끝났어.
Without a carry, this could be the game just now. The flash forward, they found the second, a double for the Cogmaw. SKT bring us to Game 5.